My friend, I want you to listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to alter the entire course of your life. Too many people live day after day wondering why their lives feel stuck, why opportunities pass them by, and why their future seems uncertain. But let me tell you, your destiny is not left to chance, it is not controlled by luck, and it is not ruled by the opinions of others. Your destiny is shaped in the secret place of prayer. If you will lean in and grasp this truth, your life will never be the same again. That's why you must not leave this message halfway. If you walk with me through the end, you will discover the force that can rewrite your tomorrow, heal your broken past, and place you in the very center of God's will for your life. Prayer is not a ritual. It is not a religious formality. Prayer is the meeting ground between heaven and earth, between your weakness and God's power, between your questions and His answers. When you pray, you are not speaking into the air. You are building the very framework of your future. You may not see it yet, but every prayer sets a stone in the foundation of your destiny. Just as an architect lays out the blueprint before a building rises, prayer lays out the blueprint of the life you were born to live. When you fall on your knees and open your heart before God, you are giving Him permission to shape your tomorrow. The reason many destinies remain unfulfilled is not because God has forgotten them, but because prayer has been neglected. Destiny without prayer is like a ship without a compass. It drifts, it wanders, it crashes against unseen rocks. But prayer is the hand that takes the wheel, that directs you through storms, and that brings you safely to the harbor of purpose. And here is what I know: every great move of God begins with prayer. Every destiny that shines with His glory was birthed in prayer. You cannot walk into your future without first walking into His presence. And when you walk into His presence, something happens. Fear turns into boldness, doubt turns into faith, weakness turns into strength. Suddenly, what looked impossible yesterday becomes possible today, because prayer has aligned you with heaven's resources. My friend, you may think your life is ordinary, your prayers small, your future uncertain, but never underestimate what happens when you pray. One prayer can open doors no man can shut. One prayer can break chains that generations could not. One prayer can shift your destiny and the destiny of your family forever. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. When you pray, you hold in your hand the key to unlock the life God designed for you. So stay with me. Don't turn away now. The secret I'm giving you is not theory. It is the difference between living by chance and living by divine design. Prayer shapes your destiny because prayer connects you to the one who wrote it. And when you connect with Him, you don't just live. You live with purpose, with direction, with power. Prayer is not just communication with God. It is destiny's architect. When you begin to understand this truth deep in your heart, you realize that prayer is far more than words whispered into the air or a ritual repeated out of habit. Prayer is the very tool by which the blueprint of your life is drawn. It is the invisible hand that lays the foundation stones for your tomorrow. Think of an architect who takes an empty piece of land and begins to sketch lines, walls, and structures that do not yet exist. To the naked eye, nothing has changed on that land, but on paper, the future of that space has already been determined. That is exactly what happens when you pray. On the surface of your life, nothing may look different, but in the spiritual realm, lines are being drawn, foundations are being laid, and structures are being designed. You are creating a future you cannot yet see, a destiny waiting to unfold. Most people fail to grasp this truth and live as if prayer is optional. They treat it as something they do in emergencies, when trouble strikes, or when fear grips their hearts. But if prayer is the architect of destiny, then neglecting prayer is like building a house with no design, no plan, no structure. It is like hoping for a building to appear without ever putting pen to paper or brick to mortar. Without prayer, destiny becomes vague, unstable, and directionless. Prayer is not a last resort, it is the first work. Before anything meaningful can rise in your life, it must first be birthed in prayer. Every great destiny was first formed in the unseen before it manifested in the seen. When you kneel down in prayer, you step into the architect's chamber. That room is not filled with rulers and compasses, but with faith, with tears, with declarations, with intimacy between you and God. Every word you pray in faith draws a line on the blueprint of your destiny. Every moment you pour out your heart before God shapes the walls, the pathways, and the doors of your future. You are not powerless when you pray. You are participating in the divine design of your life. You may not hold the pen in your hand, but through prayer you invite the true architect to hold it for you, and the plans he draws are far greater than the ones you could imagine. Consider the lives of people who dared to take prayer seriously. Their destinies did not rise by accident. They built them in prayer. They sought God in the secret place and saw His hand move in the open. When battles came, they won them first on their knees before they ever faced them on the field. The strength to overcome temptation, the wisdom to make decisions, the courage to step into unknown territory, all of it was born out of prayer. Prayer is not just the preparation for destiny, it is the very process of shaping it. Without prayer, you may wander through life without clarity, chasing opportunities that are not meant for you, and struggling with confusion about your future. But when prayer becomes your foundation, destiny becomes clear, purpose becomes evident, and direction becomes sure. Prayer also transforms your perspective of destiny itself. Many people view destiny as something fixed, like a script already written, with no room for participation. But destiny is not a rigid line drawn without your involvement. It is a living, breathing journey that requires partnership with God. Through prayer, you enter that partnership, you submit your will to His, and He reveals His purposes for you step by step. Without prayer, you may never discover those purposes. Without prayer, you may spend your life building walls that do not belong to your design. But through prayer, you are guided into alignment with the true plan. Prayer keeps you from wasting your years on what does not matter and focuses your energy on the things that shape eternity. Think for a moment about how prayer deals with time. When you pray, you are not just speaking into the present, you are reaching into the future and pulling it into alignment with God's promises. You are speaking into places you have not yet walked, into situations you have not yet faced, into seasons you have not yet entered. Prayer shapes those seasons long before you arrive. It is like preparing a road before you travel it. Without prayer, you may stumble upon rough terrain and unmarked paths. But with prayer, you arrive at roads smooth, doors opened, and opportunities ready. Destiny is not left to chance when prayer has gone ahead of you. Prayer also impacts generations. The destiny shaped in your prayer room is not only for you, but for those who come after you. The prayers you pray today become the foundation stones for your children, for your family, and for those who will be touched by your life. Every cry to God, every moment of intercession, every declaration of faith extends beyond your own lifetime. You are shaping a destiny larger than yourself. And this is why neglecting prayer does not just affect you, it affects everyone connected to you. Your silence in prayer leaves gaps in the blueprint, but your persistence fills those gaps with God's design. Destiny requires storms, and prayer equips you for them. No destiny worth living is free of trials. But those who pray discover that storms do not destroy them, storms refine them. The architect of your destiny does not promise an easy road, but he promises his presence. Through prayer, you carry the presence into every battle. You may face setbacks, but prayer turns them into comebacks. You may encounter rejection, but prayer transforms it into redirection. Prayer shapes the way you endure hardship and ensures that even in the darkest valley, you are still walking according to the blueprint. Finally, prayer shapes destiny by changing you from the inside out. Destiny is not only about what you do, but about who you become. You cannot step into a divine future with an unprepared heart. Prayer is the furnace that purifies your motives, strengthens your character, and fills you with the faith to embrace what lies ahead. Without prayer, even if opportunities arise, you may not be ready to carry them. With prayer, you are shaped into a vessel capable of holding the weight of your destiny. The world may see the outward success, but it is prayer that builds the unseen strength within. So remember, prayer is not just communication, it is construction. Every time you bow your head, you are shaping the walls of your future. Every time you lift your voice, you are laying bricks in the structure of your destiny. Every tear, every whisper, every moment in God's presence is carving out the design of the life He intended for you. And if you will remain faithful in prayer, your destiny will not only be shaped, it will be fulfilled. Every answered prayer carries the seed of direction for your future. This is a truth that cannot be ignored if you want to understand how prayer shapes your destiny. When you pray, you are not simply asking for something you desire in the moment. You are planting a seed that grows into guidance, into clarity, and into the unfolding of God's plan for your life. Too often, people look at prayer only as a way to get blessings or relief from trouble. But prayer is far greater than that. Prayer is the language through which heaven responds with answers that point your feet toward the right path. Each time God answers a prayer, hidden within that answer is a direction, a signpost, a seed that leads you toward where He wants you to be. When you stop to reflect, you will notice that the greatest shifts in your life often came not just from your own decisions, but from answers to prayer. Perhaps you prayed for strength, and God allowed a door to open that forced you to grow. Perhaps you prayed for provision, and God introduced you to someone who would not only meet your need, but also connect you to a greater opportunity. These are not random coincidences, they are seeds of direction. And if you can recognize them, you will see that God has been quietly steering your life all along. Prayer is not about controlling God's hand. It is about aligning yourself so that when He answers, you are ready to move in the direction He points. Every seed carries potential, but it must be nurtured. In the same way, every answer to prayer carries within it the potential to shape your next step. Some people miss this because they only look for dramatic miracles, when in fact God often answers in subtle ways. You may pray for clarity, and instead of a voice from heaven, God stirs a conviction in your heart, closes a door you thought you needed, or brings peace when you consider one path over another. That peace, that conviction, that closed door, they are seeds. If you pay attention and nurture them, they grow into clear direction. But if you ignore them, you may wander and wonder why your prayers seemed unanswered. The truth is, the answer was there all along, hidden in a seed form. Think of how a farmer treats seeds. He does not plant them and expect to harvest a crop the next morning. He plants them with faith, tends the soil, waters the ground, and waits patiently until the harvest comes. So it is with prayer. When God gives you an answer, it may not come fully formed. It may come as an idea, as an opportunity, as a challenge, or even as a burden on your heart. What you do with that seed determines whether your destiny grows in the right direction. Prayer is not only about receiving, it is also about perceiving. It is about recognizing the answer when it comes and nurturing it until it produces fruit. Many people pray but then rush past the answer. They expect God to hand them the finished product, but He hands them a seed. He gives wisdom when you expected wealth, strength when you wanted ease, guidance when you longed for quick solutions. But if you embrace what He gives, you will discover that within that answer lies everything you need for the future. The wisdom leads you to opportunities that bring provision. The strength equips you to endure trials that prepare you for greater responsibility. The guidance spares you from wasted years and puts you on the right path. Every answered prayer contains more than you realize at first glance. Look at the stories of those who prayed earnestly in history. When Hannah prayed for a child, God gave her Samuel. Her answered prayer was not just about motherhood. It was about birthing a prophet who would guide a nation. When Solomon prayed for wisdom, God gave him not only wisdom but also riches and honor. The seed of wisdom directed his reign, shaped his decisions, and made him known throughout the world. When Jesus prayed in Gethsemane, the answer came not as deliverance from the cross, but as strength to endure it. That strength became the seed of salvation for all humanity. Do you see the pattern? The answer to prayer always carries a seed bigger than the request itself. It is never just about the immediate. It is always about the destiny. This is why prayer requires both patience and discernment. Patience, because answers often unfold over time. Discernment, because answers may come in unexpected forms. You may pray for financial stability, and God answers by teaching you discipline and giving you an idea for work. You may pray for healing, and God answers by leading you to forgiveness that frees your heart. You may pray for breakthrough, and God answers by removing people or habits that were holding you back. If you only look for the obvious, you may miss the deeper seed of direction hidden in the answer. When you understand this, you begin to see prayer as a journey, not a transaction. It is not about asking and immediately receiving. It is about asking, receiving a seed, nurturing it, and walking in the direction it points. Prayer becomes the process by which God shapes not only your destiny, but also your ability to recognize His hand in your life. The more you pray, the more you see. The more you see, the more you trust. And the more you trust, the more willing you are to follow the direction He reveals. This truth also protects you from discouragement. Many give up on prayer because they think their prayers were not answered. But if you pause and look closely, you may realize the answer came differently than you expected. It may have been small. It may have required time. It may have been hidden in hardship. But it was there, and it was shaping you for the future. God does not ignore the prayers of His children. He answers in ways that lead you forward, even when you cannot see the full picture. Prayer plants the seeds of destiny not only for individuals, but for families, communities, and even nations. Every revival in history began with answered prayer. Those prayers did not always bring immediate fire from heaven. Sometimes they brought repentance, sometimes unity, sometimes hunger for the Word. But those were the seeds that grew into transformation. In the same way, your personal prayers may look small, but their answers ripple outward to shape far more than you can imagine. So, when you pray, pray with expectation. Pray with eyes open to see the seed in the answer. Pray with patience to nurture what God gives. And above all, pray with faith, knowing that every answered prayer, no matter how small it seems, carries within it the seed of direction for your destiny. Do not despise the small answers. Do not dismiss the quiet nudges. Do not overlook the subtle shifts. They are the seeds, and if you water them with continued prayer and obedience, they will grow into a destiny greater than you ever dreamed. Prayer transforms fear into faith, and faith into action that changes your life. This is one of the most powerful truths about prayer and one of the most overlooked. Every human being encounters fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection, Fear of sickness, fear of the future, it surrounds us like a shadow. Left unchecked, fear paralyzes, steals joy, and keeps us from stepping into the destiny designed for us. But prayer is the divine exchange where fear is surrendered and faith is received. It is in prayer that trembling hands are steadied, troubled minds find peace, and heavy hearts are lifted. Without prayer, fear rules. With prayer, fear bows. Think of what happens in those moments when fear grips your heart. Your thoughts race, your chest tightens, and your mind imagines the worst possible outcomes. Fear feeds on uncertainty and magnifies weakness. But when you pray, something begins to shift. You pour out your fears before God, and in return, His Spirit breathes courage into you. The very act of prayer acknowledges that you are not alone, that there is a higher power who hears and cares. Prayer breaks the illusion that you are trapped, reminding you that there is hope, that there is a way, that you are held by hands greater than your own. Fear shrinks when faith grows, and faith grows when prayer is present. The transformation that prayer brings is not imaginary. It is not just psychological relief or a placebo for the mind. Prayer actually aligns you with divine reality. Fear looks at circumstances and says, this is impossible. Faith looks at the same circumstances and says, with God, all things are possible. Prayer is the bridge between those two responses. It takes you from the valley of despair to the mountain of confidence. It does not always change your circumstances immediately, but it changes your posture toward them. Instead of being crushed, you stand. Instead of retreating, you advance. Instead of giving up, you endure. Prayer transforms fear into faith by shifting your focus from what threatens you to the one who protects you. When fear is transformed into faith, the next step is action. Faith is never passive. Real faith moves, real faith builds. Real faith steps forward even when the path is unclear. Prayer does not make you idle, it makes you bold. Many people misunderstand prayer as an escape, as if you retreat into prayer to avoid facing reality. But prayer is not escape, it is empowerment. You go into prayer week and you come out strong. You go in doubting and you come out believing. You go in hesitant and you come out ready to act. It was in prayer that men and women of old found the strength to face giants, confront kings, endure persecution, and walk into their destinies. Prayer does not remove the challenge, it equips you to conquer it. Fear left alone breeds paralysis. Faith birthed in prayer births courage. Fear says, stay where you are, it's too risky. Faith says, step out, God will hold you. Fear whispers, you are not enough. Faith declares, God is more than enough in you. The moment you pray, you invite this transformation, and it is not just emotional, it becomes practical. The decisions you make, the words you speak, the risks you take, the dreams you pursue, all are shaped by whether you are living in fear or in faith. Prayer ensures that your choices are birthed out of faith and not out of fear. And when your choices are directed by faith, your life changes course. You move toward the destiny that was meant for you. Think about the countless moments in history when destiny was shaped by this exchange in prayer. Gideon was hiding in fear when God called him a mighty warrior. Through prayer and obedience, he rose up to lead Israel to victory. Esther was afraid to approach the king, but the prayer and fasting gave her the courage to step in and save her people. Daniel prayed in the face of a death decree and came out of the lion's den untouched. Jesus himself, in the Garden of Gethsemane, prayed with sweat like drops of blood, transforming his anguish into the faith and strength to endure the cross. Fear was real for every one of them, but prayer transformed it into faith, and that faith birthed action that changed the course of history. This is the same for your life. Your destiny will not unfold without moments that terrify you. You will face seasons where the odds are stacked against you, where doors seem locked, where enemies seem stronger, where your own strength feels insufficient. Fear will come knocking, but prayer will always be the answer. When you pray, you shift the atmosphere. You remind yourself that the God who called you is bigger than the challenge before you. And when fear is exchanged for faith, you will take steps you never thought possible. You will apply for opportunities you once disqualified yourself from. You will speak words you once kept silent. You will forgive where you once held grudges. You will persevere where you once would have quit. Prayer is the place where transformation begins on the inside so it can manifest on the outside. Many people try to change their actions without first changing their hearts. They try to be bold while still consumed by fear, and they fail. But prayer works at the root. It deals with the fear inside, replaces it with faith, and then that faith flows outward into action. It is not pretending to be fearless. It is truly being filled with courage that comes from God. That is why the enemy always tries to keep you from praying. He knows that as long as fear rules, you are stuck. But the moment you pray, fear loses its grip, and you begin to live boldly. Even the smallest prayers can begin this transformation. A whispered cry in the night, a trembling plea for help, a silent thought directed toward God, all are seeds of faith. And as those seeds grow, they push fear out of the soil of your heart. The more you pray, the less fear can dominate you. It may still knock at your door, but prayer equips you to answer with faith instead of surrender. Over time, you begin to live not as one who hides from life, but as one who walks into destiny with confidence. Your destiny is too important to be left in the hands of fear. Fear will always try to chain you to the past, but prayer will always point you toward the future. Fear will try to silence your voice, but prayer will amplify it with conviction. Fear will try to convince you that the mountain is too high, but prayer will give you the faith to climb it. And as you climb, each step of faith becomes an action that changes not only your life, but the lives of those connected to you. So never underestimate the power of prayer. It is not only your lifeline, it is your transformer. It takes the raw material of fear and turns it into the refined strength of faith. It takes the weight of your doubts and exchanges it for the wings of courage. And it sends you back into the world ready to act, ready to build, ready to fight, ready to live out the destiny you were created for. Prayer transforms fear into faith, and faith into action, and action into destiny. And that is how your life changes forever. The secret battles you fight in prayer determine the victories you see in life. There are struggles that no one else sees, nights where no one else hears your cries, burdens that no one else knows you carry. Those are the battles of prayer, the unseen struggles that happen behind closed doors and in hidden places. You may look composed on the outside, you may look strong to those around you, but deep inside there are wars raging, wars of doubt, wars of temptation, wars of decisions, wars of fear. And it is in prayer, in those secret moments with God, that these battles are fought and won. What the world sees as sudden victory is often the result of long unseen warfare and prayer. The victories people celebrate in public, the breakthroughs, the achievements, the miracles, the open doors, are often the fruit of private prayer sown in tears. Every champion in faith first fought on their knees before they ever triumphed with their hands. Prayer is where you wrestle with your fears until faith arises. Prayer is where you surrender your will until God's will becomes your strength. Prayer is where you defeat the lies of the enemy before you ever face them in the battlefield of life. The secret battles of prayer are the proving ground of destiny, and those who neglect them find themselves unprepared when the real tests come. Think about this. Every great move of God recorded in Scripture began in the hidden place. Jacob wrestled all night with God alone until he walked away with a limp and a new name, Israel, the one who prevails with God and with men. That secret battle changed the course of his destiny and the destiny of the nation that came from him. Hannah poured out her soul in silent agony before the Lord, and that unseen prayer birthed Samuel, who became a prophet and a judge in Israel. Jesus himself spent long nights in prayer, sometimes until morning, and when he faced the cross, he had already fought the battle in Gethsemane. The sweat that fell like drops of blood in that garden was the battle, and Calvary was the victory. Without the battle and prayer, there would have been no triumph in resurrection. Too often, people want the victory without the warfare, the crown without the cross, the breakthrough without the battle. But destiny does not work that way. The battles of life are won in prayer before they are seen in reality. If you fail to fight in prayer, you will find yourself weak and unsteady when trials strike. But if you win in prayer, no matter what comes against you, you will stand firm. Prayer is where God strengthens your inner man, equips you with wisdom, fills you with peace, and arms you with courage. The outward victory is only a reflection of the inner triumph already secured in prayer. This truth explains why some people seem to endure storms with unshakable peace. It is not that their storms are smaller, it is that their prayers are deeper. They have fought the secret battles when no one was watching, and because of that, when the waves rise, they are not moved. Others crumble under pressure not because they are weaker, but because they neglected the hidden place of prayer. You cannot expect to stand strong in public if you have not been fortified in private. The secret battles of prayer are also where God reveals strategy. In the noise of life, it is difficult to hear the still small voice that gives direction, but in the quiet of prayer, God speaks. He gives you ideas, He gives you solutions, He gives you steps to take. Those strategies become the weapons of victory in your daily battles. Joshua fell on his face before God, and God told him how to take Jericho. Gideon prayed in his fear, and God showed him how to cut down his army so that the victory would glorify Him alone. David, before every battle, inquired of the Lord, asking if he should advance or wait, and God gave him the plan. Those secret inquiries in prayer determine whether they would succeed or fail. In the same way, the strategy for your life is hidden in the battles of prayer. If you seek God, He will reveal what you need to do. Prayer is also the place where hidden chains are broken. There are habits, weaknesses, and struggles that cannot be overcome by willpower alone. They are spiritual battles that require spiritual weapons. Many people live in cycles of defeat because they try to fight spiritual wars with human strength. But in prayer, those chains break. In prayer, you receive power greater than yourself. In prayer, the addictions that bound you begin to lose their grip. The fears that haunted you begin to fade, and the lies that controlled you begin to unravel. The secret battles in prayer free you to live in victory. Destiny requires purity, strength, and endurance, and prayer is the furnace where these qualities are forged. The victories that matter most are not always the visible ones, winning awards, gaining recognition, achieving success. The real victories are in overcoming temptation, remaining faithful in trials, holding on to hope in despair, and obeying God when it costs you everything. These are not battles fought on stages or in crowds. They are fought in the quiet chambers of prayer. And those who win them in secret are the ones who shine with God's glory in the open. The enemy fears the believer who knows how to fight in prayer. He does not fear talent. He does not fear education. He does not fear resources. But he trembles when a person bows their knees and cries out to God, because he knows that the real battlefield is not in the physical, but in the spiritual. When you pray, you invite heaven into your struggle. You are no longer fighting alone. The armies of God stand with you. And when heaven fights for you, victory is certain. That is why the enemy works so hard to distract you, to keep you too busy, too tired, too discouraged to pray. He knows if he can keep you out of the secret battles, he can keep you from the public victories. But when you understand this truth, you make prayer your priority. You no longer treat it as a duty or a ritual. You see it as your battleground, your place of power, your secret weapon. And as you fight those battles consistently, you will begin to notice victories manifesting in your life. Doors will open, chains will break, peace will reign, guidance will come, strength will rise, and others will wonder how you do it. But you will know it was the secret battles of prayer that determined the victories they now see. So never despise the hidden place. Do not underestimate the power of tears shed in silence, of whispers uttered in the night, of groans too deep for words. These are the battles that heaven hears. And though no one else may know, though no one else may see, those battles shape the destiny that will one day be visible to all. Fight in prayer, and you will stand in victory. Without prayer, destiny drifts. With prayer, destiny takes shape. Life is like a river, and every day you are carried forward by its current. For many, that current is left uncontrolled, and they drift wherever circumstances, people, or emotions push them. They live day by day with no anchor, no compass, no clear direction, and they wonder why their lives feel empty or chaotic. Without prayer, this is inevitable, because prayer is the anchor that steadies your course and the rudder that directs your journey. Without it, you are like a ship tossed on the open sea, subject to every wave and every storm. But with prayer, you are not left adrift. You are guided, you are shaped, you are carried into the future God designed for you. Destiny is not fulfilled by accident. It does not fall into place simply because time passes or because opportunities present themselves. Destiny is the result of alignment, the connection between your life and God's eternal purpose. Prayer is what creates that alignment. It takes your scattered thoughts, your confused desires, your restless heart, and brings them into agreement with God's will. Without that alignment, even the greatest talent or the best opportunities can be wasted. A gifted musician who never tunes his instrument will only produce noise, no matter how skilled his hands may be. In the same way, a life without prayer may have potential, but it will lack harmony, direction, and purpose. Prayer tunes the heart to heaven's frequency so that your destiny can produce its intended song. Drifting is dangerous because it is subtle. You rarely notice it at first. You think you are moving forward, but slowly, almost invisibly, you are carried off course. Days turn into months, months into years, and before long, you look back and realize you have gone far from where you were meant to be. That is what happens when prayer is neglected. Without daily communion with God, your decisions begin to lean on your own understanding. Your priorities are shaped by the pressures of others. Your choices reflect fear or convenience instead of faith and conviction. Destiny does not collapse all at once. It unravels piece by piece when prayer is absent. But prayer corrects your course. It pulls you back to true north. Each time you pray, you submit your will to the one who holds your future. You lay down your plans and receive his. You may not even realize how far you've drifted until prayer brings clarity again. Like a lighthouse cutting through the fog, prayer reveals where you are and points you back to where you need to go. And if you make prayer a habit, drifting becomes impossible because you are constantly being guided, shaped, and directed by God's hand. Prayer also gives shape to destiny by defining character. Your future is not only determined by what you achieve, but by who you become. Without prayer, character is shaped by external pressures, by culture, by peers, by desires. And those influences often lead you to compromise, to cut corners, to live shallow lives. But with prayer, character is shaped by the Spirit of God. You begin to value integrity, humility, perseverance, and love. These qualities are not given by chance. They are molded in prayer. Every moment in God's presence shapes you like clay in the potter's hands. Without that shaping, your destiny may crumble under the weight of success. With it, you become strong enough to carry the responsibility that destiny requires. Destiny is also shaped by the choices you make, and prayer influences those choices. Without prayer, decisions are driven by fear, impulse, or pressure. You may choose jobs, relationships, and paths that look right in the moment but lead to regret later. But when prayer is guiding you, decisions are made with wisdom, patience, and discernment. You begin to recognize closed doors not as rejection but as protection. You see waiting seasons not as wasted time but as preparation. With prayer, you are less likely to waste years chasing what was never meant for you. Each choice becomes intentional, each step purposeful, and over time, your destiny takes the form God intended. Think of how destiny took shape for those who lived in prayer. Joseph spent years in prisons and pits, but prayer kept his heart aligned until he rose to power in Egypt. David prayed as a shepherd boy and later as a king, and through prayer he learned how to lead a nation with both courage and humility. Jesus lived a life marked by prayer, and every miracle, every sermon, every step toward the cross was shaped in those secret moments with the Father. None of them drifted into their destiny. They were guided into it through prayer. And the same is true for you. Your destiny will not simply happen because time passes. It will take shape because prayer has gone before you. Prayer also protects destiny from being hijacked. There are many voices that try to shape your future. The voice of fear, the voice of temptation, the voice of discouragement, and even the voice of people who do not understand your calling. Without prayer, those voices grow louder and can steer you away from your true path. But when you pray, you silence those voices and tune into the voice of God. His voice reminds you of who you are, of what you are called to do, of why you cannot give up. His voice gives you courage to resist distractions and strength to reject compromise. In prayer, destiny is protected from the traps of the enemy. Another reason prayer is essential is that it gives endurance. Destiny is not fulfilled overnight. It requires persistence through seasons of delay, disappointment, and difficulty. Without prayer, discouragement will cause you to drift into despair or settle for less than God's best. But prayer renews your strength. It allows you to mount up with wings like eagles, to run and not grow weary, to walk and not faint. It keeps the fire alive when everything around you tries to put it out. The shaping of destiny is not quick. It is long and often painful. But prayer gives you the endurance to keep walking, to keep believing, to keep pressing forward until the promise becomes reality. When you look at your life, ask yourself this: are you drifting or are you being shaped? If your days are marked by worry, confusion, or aimlessness, you may be drifting. But if your days are anchored in prayer, if your decisions are guided by faith, if your heart is continually being shaped by God's hand, then your destiny is taking form. And the beauty of this truth is that no matter how far you may have drifted, prayer can always bring you back. It is never too late. The moment you bow your head, the moment you call on God, He begins to realign you with His plan. Without prayer, destiny drifts slowly, silently, tragically. With prayer, destiny takes shape, strong, steady, purposeful. And if you will commit yourself to prayer, you will not live a life of regret or wasted years. You will live a life that is shaped, directed, and fulfilled by the one who designed it. That is the power of prayer, and that is the difference it makes in the story of your destiny. Prayer is not just a moment of communication with God. It is a seed planted in the soil of eternity, and every seed planted through prayer has a harvest that is destined to come forth. When you pray, you are not merely speaking words into the air. You are releasing faith, shaping circumstances, and inviting the hand of God to move in your life. That is why prayer carries generational impact. It goes beyond your present need, beyond your present struggle, and creates a future that others will walk into. Every prayer you utter today becomes a building block for tomorrow's destiny. The life you long for, the breakthroughs you desire, the transformation you need, all of them begin not in the natural but in the spiritual, and prayer is the force that births them into existence. Destiny is not something that suddenly appears. It is shaped over time, and prayer is the constant chisel that carves it into being. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than a stone, but to the sculptor, it already contains the image waiting to be revealed. Every strike of the chisel brings it closer to its final form. In the same way, prayer is the divine chisel. Every prayer removes pieces of fear, doubt, confusion, and weakness, and gradually what God sees in you begins to emerge. Without prayer, the marble remains unshaped, the image hidden. With prayer, destiny takes form and beauty is revealed. But prayer does more than shape your personal journey. It affects generations after you. When you pray, you are storing up blessings for your children and grandchildren. Your prayers today can open doors for those who come after you, just as the prayers of past generations have opened doors for you. There are blessings you are walking in right now that were birthed through the prayers of a grandmother who never stopped interceding, a father who cried out for his family, or a mother who poured her heart before God in the quiet hours of the night. Prayer is never wasted. It travels beyond time, beyond circumstances, and continues to bear fruit long after the words have left your lips. This is why prayer is not only personal, but also prophetic. It prepares a destiny not just for you, but for those connected to your life. Prayer also transforms impossible situations into testimonies. Many people believe destiny is fixed and cannot be altered, but the truth is, prayer has the power to shift the course of events. A man destined for failure can, through prayer, rise into purpose. A woman marked by pain can, through prayer, walk into healing and joy. A family crushed by generational cycles can, through prayer, step into freedom and blessing. Prayer is not bound by statistics, logic, or history. It reaches into the impossible and calls forth the miraculous. What others declare as final, prayer declares as only the beginning. It is in prayer that closed doors swing open, mountains move, and new chapters begin to unfold. Prayer also aligns you with divine timing. Many people miss their destiny not because it was denied to them, but because they stepped ahead of God or lagged behind Him. Timing is critical in destiny, and prayer is what keeps you in step with God's timing. Without prayer, you may act out of impatience, rushing into decisions before the appointed time, or you may be paralyzed by fear and delay, missing the open door God has set before you. But when you pray, you are sensitive to the leading of the Spirit. You learn to wait when it is time to wait, to move when it is time to move, and to trust when it is time to stand still. Prayer is what keeps you in rhythm with heaven, ensuring that you do not just reach your destiny, but reach it in the season God has prepared. Another dimension of prayer's power is how it builds resilience in the journey of destiny. There will be storms, there will be trials, there will be seasons where it feels like everything is against you. Without prayer, those seasons can crush you, leaving you broken and hopeless. But with prayer, those same seasons become the very training ground for your destiny. In prayer, you receive strength that is not your own, courage that defies fear, peace that surpasses understanding. Prayer does not always remove the storm, but it equips you to walk through it without losing your faith. And when you endure through prayer, your destiny is not weakened by trials, it is strengthened by them. Prayer also releases vision. Without prayer, your sight is limited. You see only problems, limitations, and obstacles. But with prayer, God opens your eyes to possibilities you never imagined. He gives you glimpses of what your destiny could look like. He shows you the steps to take, the people to connect with, the opportunities to pursue. Vision gives life direction, and prayer is what keeps that vision alive. When discouragement tries to cloud your view, prayer restores clarity. When failure tries to blind you, prayer lifts your eyes again to hope. Destiny requires vision, and vision requires prayer. Moreover, prayer is the fuel of faith. Faith without prayer becomes shallow, easily shaken by disappointments and setbacks. But when you pray, your faith deepens, because prayer constantly reminds you of who God is and what He is capable of. It builds trust, it cultivates expectation, and it ignites boldness. Faith declares that destiny is possible, and prayer feeds that declaration until it becomes reality. Without prayer, you will lack the strength to believe when everything around you looks hopeless. With prayer, your faith becomes unshakable, and you walk into your destiny with confidence, knowing that what God has spoken will surely come to pass. One of the most powerful aspects of prayer is how it transforms you into the person destiny requires you to be. Many times we are praying for God to change our circumstances, but God uses prayer to change us. Destiny requires maturity, wisdom, humility, and perseverance. These qualities are not developed overnight, they are birthed in prayer. Each time you pray, you surrender a little more pride, a little more fear, a little more selfishness, and you receive more of God's heart, God's mind, God's character. Destiny is not only about reaching a place, but becoming a person, and prayer is the process that shapes you into that person. Finally, prayer seals destiny with eternal impact. A life lived without prayer may achieve success in the eyes of the world, but its influence will fade with time. A life lived in prayer, however, leaves an eternal mark. The prayers you pray, the lives you touch through those prayers, the victories you win on your knees, they echo into eternity. Your destiny is not simply about what you accomplish in this life, but about how your life impacts eternity, and prayer is what makes that possible. When you pray, you are partnering with heaven, and that partnership carries results that will never fade. Prayer is the thread that weaves destiny together. It is the force that shapes, directs, protects, and fulfills. Without it, destiny remains incomplete, potential remains unrealized, and life remains empty. But with it, destiny flourishes, purposes unfold, and lives are transformed. The future you long for, the calling that burns in your heart, the impact you desire to leave, all of them are waiting on the other side of prayer. Every destiny begins and ends in prayer, And the moment you make prayer the center of your life, you step into the life God has prepared for you.